Hello everybody and welcome back to Unconditional Surrender, game designed by Salvatore Vasta, published by GMT Games. I'm Dren608. This is the Me, Myself, and I playthrough of the main event. We're about ready to start May 1940. I have, in order to try and speed things up a little bit, I've done some things that can be done before we start, like the economy phase, and I will continue to do that because it seems to be a little wasteful of time just for me to plod through moving production counters around on the production tracks. So, without further ado, we will get straight to the weather die roll, which is the most important part of this particular turn, and see what we get. So, the die roll for May in the cold zone is a 6. May with a 6 in the cold zone is poor. So, my luck continues with the weather. And then the next one is May for the mild zone is a 5, so that is also poor. And then the warm zone is a 1, so that is actually fair in the Mediterranean. So that's our weather, and I'm doing this the long way. If we come up here and we look at Norway, because we're at declare war phase, I did the math. There's like a 20% chance that I could fail on the invasion of Norway in poor weather. Basically, there's 7 combinations out of 36 that the Norwegians will hold their hex. I'm not that kind of gambler as the Germans. I really want this to go the way I want it to, so I'm not going to declare war. So that'll skip all the declare war phases. We've already done the economy phases. There is no strategic warfare. I'm also going to hold off on most of the strategic movements unless it matters for this particular turn. Like I need to strategically redeploy something into a defensive line to form one. And just sort of, when I get to Russia, if I think I needed to adjust some Russian armies, I'll have a stack of strategic moves that I could have done it in, and more than enough production points to adjust the line. And that will speed things along because I can pretty much ignore the Russian front until the Germans get there. So we're going to skip through that. We go to the German operations phase. Germans aren't going to do a lot. We're in poor weather, and I don't have anything to attack. So I'm going to activate 3 armies. I'm not even going to bother to take it off the track because I'm not going to spend hardly anything. That would be 3 production points for these 3 armies here. And I'll just move them from bottom to top. So the first army goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It is behind the line between the Ems and the Rhine. Did I say that right? Ems? EMS? I'm not sure. The next army to move here looks to be the 9th Army. I guess I'm not sure what that is. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the canal. 5, and then 6 back to the Netherlands border, where they need to be to help me next turn. One of the reasons why I'm doing this is I know for a fact, because of the new weather rules, that June will be clear. So I will be able to do all my attacks and things in clear weather. And one of the things I have also calculated out is that if you invade Norway because of their reduced state, that you can pretty much guarantee that you will win the battle because you will be plus 4, which means the minimum you'll get is a 5. And when you look on the player, I better do this move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Getting back out of Denmark. Up, I think. There we go. So I just went and took Copenhagen, so we don't have to worry about any Western Allied adventurism dropping units into Copenhagen. that's basically my moves. I will be doing supply. Everything is in supply. So we'll be moving on to the western phase. But as I was saying, if you look at the combat results table, the Germans will be able to attack with a +4, which means they will get a minimum of a 5. And if they drop their paradrop on the Norwegians, which is the way you do this, the best the Norwegians can get is a 2, and if they have a ground support marker, they could get to a 3. Because they could roll a 6 plus 1 is a 7, halved is 3.5, or not halved, but -4 is a 3. And even at a 3, a 5, which is the worst the Germans can get, is a DR. Therefore, they will force the Norwegian unit out of Oslo, and then Norway will be conquered. So that's why I'm waiting until June, because I know I can conquer Norway for sure in June. No problems. So, where are we? We are Western operations phase. We know it's going to be clear, so we're going to go ahead and do this. See if we get lucky on the die rolls. This time I will remember that both sides are -2. So the French are -2 going in, and the Germans are a dead 0 because they start off at +2. And that's for the weather. So they're attacking the 3rd Luft. The French roll A2, so they are a 1. And the Germans roll A6. -2 is a 4. No. It's straight 6 because they're +2 for Germans. So they did in the French again, just like the last time I tried to do this. Not having a lot of luck with the French. 1 to 6, the French actually take 3 sorties instead of 2. So that failed miserably. Drop this down here and raise it 1. I did get a sortie on the Germans, but that's like nothing to the Germans. So that didn't work well, and the French will stop. They're already way behind the curve on that combat. And the Western allies have to do their due diligence with the British, dropping convoy markers. I'm not even going to bother to put the convoy markers on here, the sortie markers, because I know the British are just going to pay to clear them. So I'm just going to speed this up and not do that. The Soviets are pretty much in place. I'm probably going to have my friend look at this saved game and tell me if I've got his setups right. Oh, I know I have one wrong. This unit, we'll spend a build point and we'll move him into Kaunas. He's supposed to actually be in the capital of Lithuania, not in the hex behind it. And that's the Soviets. There is no supply. Replacements, yes, we have to do the Germans. They gotta clear their sorties. So they will spend 6 to clear that sortie and these sorties. That means the Germans have spent 9. If you take a look at the national tracks, they have 28. So, they would be down to 19, and then they'll spend 1 for a unit, which would be 18, and 5 for diplomacy, which is 13. So they definitely have enough points, so I'm not going to bother moving it. Same thing with the French, same thing with the British. We all have enough points to do this, so just to speed things along, the French will spend their 3 to bring this down 2 when we get there, and then that's replacements. The British spend their 6 to clear their convoys. Upgrades, we don't have any. Mobilisation, the Germans do have another militia to put out here, so they will take it and drop it, I don't know, Hamburg? Kiel? Where should I go? I'll put it in Hamburg for now. I never can quite figure out where to put these. I'm always pretty sure I'm always getting it wrong. And then the West does nothing to build, but the Soviets have 2 armies, so we will go over to the Soviet Union. They have 2 armies to place. And I am pretty sure that they will go one goes into Riga. And the other one goes... It's a toss-up between Minsk and Kiev. I'm going to put it in Kiev because that's a little more critical. If they manage to run to Minsk, I still have a junction in Smolensk and a bunch of rivers to hide behind. But if you get to Kiev, you're almost over the Dnieper, and that could be very bad. So that's where those things will go. And that ends the mobilization phase. We're to diplomacy, which is kind of the important part of this nonsense. Oops. Okay, there's 2 political success markers out of the box. We know there's no area seized anymore. So, political failure, there's a German pro-Axis marker, and a political success. So there's 2 successes as far as the Germans are concerned, 5 no events, and 1 bad thing. The bad thing could end up having things like Yugoslavia or Hungary start to go pro-Allied. But if that's the case, then I'll just have to conquer them. If they decide to actually activate against me. So I'm going to go ahead and take the chance with the Germans, see if I can get my little, get one of my successes so I can activate things like Romania and such. And I get a no event. The British are trying to take away my political successes, so they also are going to pull. And they do. They get rid of my pro-Axis marker, which is a good thing for them. It means I have 1 less political success possibility in the future. One thing to keep in mind, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're only allowed to ever have 8 of these pro-Axis markers on the board and in the cup, and I want to make sure I'm counting right. 1, 2 in Bucharest, or Bucharest, 3. Yeah, I have 3 on the board and 5 in the stack, so I'm okay. And the Russians, looking at this, do they really need a political success? There's a chance they could pull a political failure. So the Russians are actually just going to try and stack it against the Germans. They put a no event in. So they pick a counter that's out. That's a no event encounter. And because they put a counter in and there's a no event, they have to put another one in. So they basically have all 6 no events in there versus 1 political success and 1 political failure. So that kind of stacks the cup against the Germans being able to activate some of these countries. And that takes care of diplomacy. They haven't conquered Germany yet. And we are to the end of turn phase. So we have ended May. We'll go check the turn track. When we go into June, the British are going to get an aircraft and a ground support into their card. So they will have a ground support to help with either Norway or the Netherlands and all those kinds of places. And they also get an airplane into their mobilization box. Oops, not that. Which is kind of nice. They'll be able to bring in another British Air Force. So the Germans could have some trouble with airplanes if they're not careful. That ends the May turn. We will pick up in the next episode. I will be doing June because it will be a clear turn. I will warn you now, the next episode will be a little bit longer because I will be declaring war on Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium, and probably going into France somewhat too. So there will be a lot of activity on the Western Front, and it will probably be more like a 45-minute video. I hope to keep it to that. And we will see you next time when Germany will invade the West in June of 1940. Thanks, this is Dren608, and thanks for watching. Again, this is Unconditional Surrender by GMT Games. Bye now.